think WoW is killing itself. I think it doesn't help that there's better options out there.
It is time once again for the main story quest, where the Trinity Bros give you their MMO opinion.
Time for some Trinity Bro opinions. Okay, so WoW has been the king of the hill for many, many years, and many companies have tried hard to take them down and become the new king of the hill. Have we maybe finally found the Kingslayer in Final Fantasy XIV? More recently, we've seen a lot of stuff where people have been playing it. Some classic Blizzard World of Warcraft streamers went over there. Like I said earlier, there's been the fact that they're kind of like, holding off on getting people the keys because of spawn points and everything, and so they've been kind of limiting people getting in the game. It's interesting to see all this, and you're like, I haven't checked the numbers, but I don't know for a fact. But knowing a lot of people I know who are WoW players, they're like, yeah, whatever. 9.2 came out, boop wee. They're not really playing it. They're like wondering. I mean, it's not as bad. 9.1. Oh, 9.1. Sorry, I thought that 9.1 was the actual. Okay, never mind. That's why I get corrected by the game masters. Okay, so
it's okay.
So, Solomon, what do you think? As we finally seen the WoW killer, and with Endwalker coming out, it will just dwarf whatever Blizzard has done.
I think, okay, so without trying to talk your ear off, I'll try to make it short and concise. I have two opinions on this. One, I'll first start with the sort of the broad general cultural, I guess you could say, answer that I have in mind. If you look at some of the recent popular memes that's been coming out on social media, you'll see the one of the more popular ones is like, you see the character designs from Japanese companies and the other one from American companies, and it's usually comparing like how sexy or how amazing like a particular character looks, and the Japanese characters tend to look a lot more eye appealing, easier to look at, more just lots of color saturation, a lot of design, a lot of sexiness, a lot of things that make a video game more appealing. And then on the other hand, you look at an American design and it's just like they kind of go for a more realistic approach, but that doesn't necessarily always translate to appealing. It kind of just seems like a little bland, a little meh, no matter how much texture or no matter how much detail you put into the character. And going to comic books, for example, you see now manga has been more popular than ever, and even surpassing the American comic book industry in terms of sales, in terms of popularity, in terms of the amount of attention it's been receiving. Why? Almost for the same reasons. Japanese characters look amazing. They're easy on the eyes. They're just a lot more there that people are looking for. Whereas an American, man, how do I explain this without getting too political? They tend to design their characters in a way such that
or diverse.
Yeah, let's put it that way. And there is a market for that.
Yeah,
there is a market for that, but I don't think it's the majority. I think it's just a lot of people making a lot of noise to make it seem like there's a lot of people that demand for this type of stuff, when in reality it's just a lot of noise. So I think that's why, again, going back to the examples that I set up, and again, they'll say like causation doesn't lead to ways. And so I'm not saying that, given those two, I guess you could even say anecdotal evidences, the reason why Final Fantasy XIV is more popular. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's probably the case, that I'm just putting 2 different or 3 different examples and just kind of putting them together as evidence, and that's a completely valid criticism. But it's still very difficult to ignore the fact that you've been seeing the popularity of foreign games and foreign media and particularly from Japan, getting more popular than the American counterparts. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that American, dare I say, products in terms of the pop culture, media, video game industry just really hasn't been cranking out fantastic things because, again, of political reasons. Again, that's not necessarily a political statement of in itself. Like,
Right.
I could care less where you,
Yeah.
if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever, I could care less where you line up politically. Vote for Trump, vote for Biden. I don't care. Like, I'll still be friends with you regardless. And even then, that's controversial apparently. But yeah, I think we see a trend of people just being absolutely done with Western. And typically in Japanese culture, they're not as politically as correct as Western societies are, and so to answer that your question after that really long-winded explanation, I think this is a trend that's going to get even more popular because of that. I think Final Fantasy 14. A part of me wants to say it's just a fad right now. There is a side of me that says, oh, it's going to be popular for maybe about a year, but it'll go back down. But the evidence seemed to suggest, and again, the evidence that I just explained seemed to suggest that no, it's actually probably not going to be a trend or just a fad, that unless Blizzard decides to do something completely drastic and be like, hey, we need to go back to basics, go back to the core of things, what made WoW special in the first place. I see them hemorrhaging more subscribers and players, and I don't think another Wrath of the Lich King on Classic is going to help repair that, to be completely honest with you.
Oh, well said. That's a very good point. That maybe Final Fantasy 14 isn't the WoW killer on its own, but because of where we are today in 2021, everything that's happened is like benefiting from this, benefiting from Blizzard screwing up or making some mistakes, benefiting from things that are happening out in the culture today, benefiting from a lot of different things, and people are like, I'm tired, and want something new. Even though Final 14 has been out for a number of years, for some people it's brand new. Like good example, our friend Got Fuzz, who's like, didn't play it. He's a WoW guy. I just love playing WoW. And he's like, what? You never played Final Fantasy 14? Been around for a while, dude. SirJahzeal, what are your thoughts about Final Fantasy 14 being a WoW killer?
I think WoW is killing itself. I think it doesn't help that there's better options out there. There were a couple of points that I wanted to hit on, and of course they're going to involve numbers, because even though I'm not a cool engineer like you, I am very analytical and I love numbers. And one of the things that I had read recently, because I'm a super nerd with numbers, and I also enjoy manga a little bit and comics. I grew up on comics. Bookscan had just put a report out here. It would have been back in May, I believe, but I have it scribbled down here, that said that the sales of print manga titles in the United States increased by 3.6 million units in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the same period in 2020. 3.6 million? That's a lot. That is a big number. And especially in a time when US sales of comics are going, which is weird, because
wait, say that again. Say that again. I missed it.
The movies are so popular that you think that would reinvigorate it, right?
Comic books.
That people would be like, wait a minute, there's comic versions of these? Dad, Grandpa, what is there really a comic book shop that we can go to and get Captain America and I can read it in comic book form?
Goodness,
yeah, I think there's still some around. Let's go look. It's like, you would think that sales would be going up because of how successful these movies are and how many billions of dollars that Marvel, it's alone. Let's not talk about DC. That Marvel is made. The Schneider cut was okay. Anyway, you would think, but it's not. It's the exact opposite. The sales of American made comics are going down. Japanese manga is going through the roof. I mean, 3.6 million units up from last year. That is amazing. That is huge. So there absolutely is a trend there. Now, the thing is, I know that I've been told stories by my grandparents, great-grandparents, my parents, and all these stories about, different heirlooms passed down and whatnot. Oh, this is from France. Oh, this is from Austria. This is from wherever. And they always seem to have this reverence for things that are foreign. And I think a lot of Americans, for one reason or another, whether it's their own personal family heritage that they want items from wherever their family came from, or it's just it seems fancier, it seems cooler, it seems sexier, or whatever. If it comes from France, or if it came from, like I said, anywhere else than America or Canada, I don't know. It seems like it's something special, right? But I think really just to give other numbers here, this is current. Okay, so we've been kind of keeping all of you up to date with the numbers here the last 6 weeks ish. It's still World of Warcraft 2.2 million subscribers this week. Well,
yeah,
this
concurrent.
month.
I mean, like not total
Right.
subscribers, but active playing
Well,
accounts again. Right?
Actively playing right now. Yeah, it does say they did. It doesn't say subscribers anymore. It says players.
Okay.
So maybe that's how they're getting around it. Now, if you want to combine that with Classic, which I think is cheating, and I wouldn't add it, Classic supposedly has 1.2 million.
Okay.
Okay, so if you add them up, then okay, yeah, they beat everything. But if you don't, Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn has we'll just round it up to 2.7 million players currently. So they're still holding strong. Now, I absolutely do think that the big WoW streamers, Asmongold and the like, are helping boost that quite a bit. I don't think into as big a numbers as some people have said on YouTube, but it's enough to push it up there. And I think that people are, as Kennethan was saying about people like Gotfuzz and Gotfuzz himself, that I never gave it a chance in the past because they were like, no, World of Warcraft is great. I love it. I'm having fun. Why do I need to play another game? They're finally kind of realizing that after, expansion after expansion after expansion just being such a letdown, that they're finally going, all right, I see all these big streamers. I see several of my friends in my Discord group are trying this game out. Sure, I'll go play it. They're getting there and they're going, wow, this is actually really good. I'm having a lot of fun. This is actually engaging, and like, I love everything about this, except for, maybe one or two little nitpicky kind of things. And then they start looking into it, how much more that the devs actually listen to us, the players, and how much investment that the company is putting into the game and keeping it fresh, keeping it new, keeping it exciting, and keeping the story making sense, and the lore all working together correctly, and not having to go back and revamp things as World of Warcraft has been doing. As I said a couple of weeks back on the show about, I bought those Chronicles books, and now a lot of sections in those Chronicles books are obsolete. They're not true anymore to the story in the game, because they've gone back and retconned things, and it's just getting really aggravating. And man, the way that the devs treat, not all the devs, but especially the suits treat the players of World of Warcraft, and the way that Final Fantasy's devs and suits treat their players, are two completely separate things. And I think when you experience both, it's going to be an obvious, I'm going to Final Fantasy XIV.
That has been one of the, especially listening to the Massive LP podcast, they'll tout Square Enix is doing a great job with their community. Not it's like they're not perfect. Like they screw up very big. They screw up the first time. They launched a game and it crashed and burned. So that's why a Realm Reborn is out of the ashes, because they're like, they're being very arrogant. Oh, you don't need jumping in the game. It's like, we know you don't. And so they've been listening ever since. And that's the story content, the animations, the way they do things, the music, There literally are concerts. You can go to symphony concerts. Like there's one here in Seattle a couple years ago that I went to with the music, and it's
Mhm.
just overall the people who defend it. Like my son has played a lot of games over the years. You know, NTN's mentioned about Rift and Guild Wars 2 and other stuff, right? That I played Lord of the Rings online. I played with my son, and he would be very much like, "Oh, it's a new game." Final Fantasy 14 just drew him in, kept him there to the point where he keeps playing it. You know, he even has an Instagram account based on his character. He sends out pictures, I guess, you know. Anyways, so
He posts pictures of his waifu.
yeah. So I mean, it's a game that he and his friends play all the time. They don't play it. They do take breaks, okay. But that's the thing. I mean, that's why World of Warcraft didn't have that. I mean, and Yoshi P, who the main producer, main creative person behind it, will tell you go play other games because you can't, there's more out there, other games to play. Come back when we have an expansion. So like a lot of people who we know who played when Shadowbringers came out are on pause right now. They kind of play now, and I've seen my free company get on now and then and play, but they finished it, and so they're waiting for Endwalker. And for me, I'm trying to finish up Stormblood and to get into Shadowbringers and finish that up so I can get ready for Endwalker. You know, because that's the other thing about Final Fantasy 14. So for those who don't know, there is a little bit of a I don't call it grind. There is a certain catch, you might say. Okay, you can't get to Heavensward. You can't get to Stormblood. Okay, you can't get to the next content until you completed the previous one. You know, Elder Scrolls Online is a very good example. Again, this was mentioned in the Master OP podcast, where any expansion that comes out, you literally can go to it. You can go to any of them. Final Fantasy 14, you cannot. You have to level your character up through the main story arc to get to where you need to go. That is one of the drawbacks of the game that people probably stumble upon. Then again, if you're dedicated to the game, it's gonna be a big deal. You know, I don't know how long it takes to actually get through Heavensward itself if you had all the time in the world. You know, but you can. I mean, I'm almost finished with Stormblood, but if I figure out how long it might take me to get to Shadowbringers.
I felt the same way as you. Like, oh, I can't just jump ahead and go play with Ken when I first got on, right? Because I talked to you about that. I saw, oh, okay. The thing is, I think that's a good thing because yes, they're forcing you to play the main story quest, but that's a good thing. And the reason that I appreciate that more than World of Warcraft is you as a new player go into World of Warcraft and you have no idea where to start or whatever. Now they made it better when Shadowlands came out, right, that you get to pick which expansion you want to go through, but then it makes all the other leveling up content obsolete. So you've got all that other content that's history, that's lore, that is very interesting. Most of it, there's an expansion or two in there that maybe you could say Warlords of Draenor is throwaway, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's throwaway, but with Final Fantasy 14, they're like, no, there's no throwaways here. This is good stuff. And we want you to experience the whole story, and it connects you to the characters. And I haven't got to, I haven't even got to Heavensward yet. I'm like 3 quests away from it, which is what I plan on doing tonight. Now that I remember that the internet exists, but I've been told there's like deaths, there's things that happen later on that are really impactful. And the reason they're impactful is because you've played with those characters. You've done your main story quest with those characters for years, potentially, before that happens. And you have that connection, and it just brings you into the game that much more and invests you into it. And it helps you to understand when you get to that end game, what you and the NPCs that are in those stories have had to go through to get to that point. And I just enjoy the fact that this isn't, as Solomon was saying earlier, this isn't just another MMO. This isn't just a copy of another MMO. This is a very, I was saying it on my stream earlier today, that I was watching a YouTube video about the person was comparing, I'm almost done, World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy 14. And what he said is, it is completely appropriate to call World of Warcraft an MMORPG. But what people need to know most that are coming from World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy XIV, like I did, like you did, like a lot of us have, got Fuzz. We mentioned him 3 times tonight. And he's not even here, is he? Is that Final Fantasy XIV is not an MMORPG so much as it's an RPG MMO.
Oh, nice.
Right. And I was like, that is so brilliant. And if someone would have told me that, if Lurker, for instance, your son would have told me that, I think I would have had a better transition, an easier transition, and I would have known why it's so story driven, why I'm having to click on so many, text boxes and stuff. I would have gone, oh, I get it now, which I do now, but I've experienced it on my own. But yeah, I would say, while it may be a bad thing for people that are coming in and want to play with their friends, like I want to play with you and your son and your group of people that are all leveled up, you know what? I'm willing to wait because the story it's really good, man. It is really good. And I'm glad that they kind of forced me to play through it. It's sad that it may be another year before I get to group up with you, but I'm willing to do it. I'm going to stick it out. So yeah, I would say there's two sides to looking at that, and I prefer to look at the more positive side of it.
Okay, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Watch this on YouTube. Give us your thoughts. Post it in the link below through all the comments section. I will point out that Collective, who has played both games, says Final Fantasy XIV does not appeal to the masses. And kind of the reason why, one of the things that JahzealL was just saying that were the good things about Final Fantasy XIV is why he says it won't appeal to the masses, which I get that. So
yeah, I get it.
Check out the further adventures of Kennethan by liking and subscribing and watching me live on twitch.tv/Kennethan.